I have a weird fascination with movie tie-in games. I'm like a moth to a flame because I know most of them are pretty much trash. So in this video, I'm going to go through 10, going through some pretty okay ones to really bad ones. Let's do it. Okay, first we have The Karate Kid. In this side-scrolling beat-em-up, and I'll get used to this because you're going to see a lot of side-scrollers here, you take on the role of Daniel-san and battle your way through 4 levels, count them, 4, which sort of follow the first 2 films, which is quite cool actually. Now this is a pretty tough game, but you know what? You might be surprised by this, but I kinda like it. It's one of those ones where I started playing it and thought I'm gonna give up instantly with this because it's just super tough and just there's nothing much to see. But for some reason I kept at it and it kind of felt satisfying to eventually get it beat. Now don't be expecting some amazing ending. A lot of these games on this list literally just end with a screen saying well done. I'm going to spoil it here, but Mr. Miyagi, it just appears at the end and winks and says a nice message. That's pretty much it. It is bad, but there's something good about it. Next up we have Robocop, and in this one you of course play as Murphy and blast your way through the crime-ridden streets, battling thugs and robots. And it's pretty good. It looks and sounds great, and it does get challenging, especially on the last stage, because it's kind of a timed based thing where you've got to get through to the end really quickly. And I don't normally like that in games, but I really did at the end. It became really tense and so satisfying to actually beat it. Okay, next up we have Jaws, you know, the film with the shark. Well, this is a very simple game where you play as a diver trying to defeat that infamous shark by collecting power-ups and shooting harpoons. Just like the movie, you know what, it's pretty fun for what it is. But for what it is pretty short. It's just a couple of mini games just stuck together in a very short experience. So don't really be expecting much from this, but I did kind of overall enjoy it. I can't imagine paying full whack for this back in the day. Let's just say that. It's not that good. Next up we have a game which isn't a side-scrolling platformer. Willow is a top-down RPG and it's actually worth playing. You take on the role of Willow Ufgood in a quest to save the land from the evil Bath Morder. Now when you first see this game, you may be under the impression that it's not very good. It might appear to be trash because you are just a little character in the middle of the screen, in the middle of nowhere, wielding a sword that you actually wield really slow. But I would say stick with it because it does get better. Now it does take a little bit of time to get better because there's a lot of grinding, and oh my word, there is a lot of grinding. So if you're into that, you're going to be in heaven with this one. But just know that there is a lot of grinding in this game, but it does get better and that sword will get faster and you will feel a hell of a lot more powerful as the game goes on. Okay, number 5, we have Cliffhanger. It's an action adventure, you guessed it, side scroller, where you play as Gabe, who was Sylvester Stallone in the movie. You are a mountain climber on a mission to rescue his kidnapped friend from a gang of ruthless mercenaries. You know, one of those ones. I mean, yes, it does look like absolute trash. I can't get past that. Look at the state of it. And this was in 1993 as well, quite late. But I actually quite enjoyed it for what it was. It was a very simple platformer and very short as well, so you can beat it in a few hours, probably less because if you're a better gamer than me, but I did enjoy it for what it was. But yeah, it's not anything to write home about. I probably like this better than the SNES version, which just looks like a straight up beat 'em up. In number 6 we have Home Alone. And in this one, you obviously play as Kevin McAllister and you have to defend your home from a couple of burglars, you know, the wet bandits, using traps found around the house. Basically, all you have to do in this game is wait out the timer, because when that runs out, the police will turn up and arrest the burglars. That's all you have to do. But that sounds so simple, doesn't it? It is not simple because these burglars get faster and faster and it's just become solid. It is really tough. Now, I do prefer this to the SNES version, as I think it's actually cool that you can see most of the house all at once. Reminds me of a show called Finders Keepers from the 90s. I don't know if anyone will remember that. Number 7, we have got Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And oh dear, this is bad. You play as Eddie Valiant, who's Bob Hoskins in the movie, trying to solve puzzles and fight enemies, all the while followed by Roger Rabbit. This is kind of a point-and-click type adventure game, but it feels completely nonsensical. And it's really frustrating because you do not control Roger, only the Bob Hoskins character, and Roger is quite vulnerable to getting run over or attacked by other enemies, etc. So yeah, that is frustrating as hell with this game. But on the plus side, it does look quite nice, and it's nice to see a kind of graphical representation of Toontown from the movie, but that doesn't stop it sucking pretty hard. We're moving on to number 8, and things are going to get worse here, because we have Wayne's World. Oh god. It's a side-scrolling platformer again, where you play as Wayne and Garth on a quest to save their TV show. And how do you do that, you might ask? Well, you do this by beating up things like musical instruments, TV screens, and ninjas. Yep, you heard that right, ninjas. Now this is extremely tedious and unfair. It's one of those platformer games where you will fall through ledges all the time because you just don't line up. Even though it looks like you can line up with a ledge, you fall right through it. The enemies are horribly placed. They'll be on a ledge or something like that, which will just knock you off when you go near them, or they just overpower you really quickly and you don't really know how to fight them. And probably the worst thing about this game is that, you know, it's called Wayne's World, but Wayne is so underpowered compared to Garth. It's insane. Garth has a gun, so he makes things a lot easier when you're just going through the level, just shooting the gun. But when you go Wayne, he basically does martial arts, and he's just so vulnerable. He's awful. And I'd like to say that it was worth it getting to the end of the game, but it was not, because you were just presented with the same picture you see throughout the whole game.
I legitimately completed Wayne's World on the NES, I think. Are you kidding me? That was it? There wasn't even... You just got an excellent screen and that's it? That's it?
Completely unremarkable. Please do not play this game. It is trash. But is it as trash as number 9? Beetle Juice, because next up we have this wacky platformer where you play as the ghost with the most, you know, the Michael Keaton character from the film. You explore weird worlds, haunted houses, and battle bizarre monsters over 5 stages. I just want to say this now, it's not worth it. Do not play this game. I mean, it's got some decent variation, I say that because it's got some platforming sections, which is most throughout the game, but it's also got some top-down sections. I was actually surprised with that, having some kind of variation. You know, if you watched my last video where I talked about my favourite NES games, I did talk about the fact that I like a lot of variation in these games, because you don't expect it. But apart from that, this game, for me, was 80% bug stomping. And that, you'd be like, what are you talking about, Stephen? What is bug stomping? Well, in order to collect currency to use in the shops to buy things like scares, which you kind of like weapons in the game, and extra lives, you've got to collect bugs, and you do this by stomping on these bugs outside the shops, most notably. Also, it's got really unfair jumping. Now, I was saying it was kind of unfair in Wayne's World with the ledges, but my word, if you jump higher than he can see down below, you will die. And this happens all the time. It's like ridiculous. And with a game where you really need to save your lives because you don't want to start from the beginning, you'd never want to do that, it's really frustrating. But just like Wayne's World, I mean, these two are the worst, really. It's got a really bad ending as well. This one doesn't even have a boss. That's why it's higher than Wayne's World in this list, I guess. You just go through a door and then it's just a picture of Beetle Juice come up saying well done or whatever text comes up, and then it goes back to the intro screen. It's diabolical. Please do not play Beetle Juice. But all these do not compare to the travesty of number 10, and that is Last Action Hero. It's another side-scrolling platformer that puts you in the shoes of Jack Slater, you know, played by Arnie in the movie. And this, my friends, and you won't be surprised to hear this, is absolute trash. I don't think there's anything I can say that's positive about this game, apart from the fact that it's short. Every other game in this list I like to a certain degree. That's what made me plow through them, you know, as much as I could. There are certain elements like the variation, the music, but this has none of those apart from the fact it's short. There are no guns in this game for Arnie, even though it looks like you've got a place to have a gun. It's just a picture of his fist, I think it was, just constantly throughout the game. So you're always at a disadvantage. Like I said before, you never feel powerful in these games, and this is one of those games. You're Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you never feel powerful. Weirdly enough, I know this is kind of a thing from the movie, but the first boss you fight is literally this last boss as well. But they don't change it up. All they do is just place the boss in a different setting, and that's it. And you fight him in the same way because there's no variation in fighting. It's just punching, going up to someone and punching. That's it. Oh god, it's so bad. Please don't play it unless you like me and you you want to do this to yourself. Anyway, that wraps this video up, but if you want to hear me talk about 10 games that I do like on NES, my personal favourites, go watch this video.